Okay.
Well, they only need to hear me anyway, right?
Yeah. Say something wrong.
Something wrong?
Okay. Something wrong. Yeah,
Something wrong.
I'll do. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're trying, yeah. Okay. Right. Off to the races, I
Okay,
guess.
right. Hello.
Take it away, Ron.
All right. Hello. Welcome
Hang on,
to...
I am recorded, am I? Ah, yeah.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Okay, we're off to the races now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Magic Morning Wood. I'm Ron.
And I am Clive.
Yes, where we discuss random movies with no particular reason whatsoever.
Rhyme or reason, no.
No rhyme or reason. So we're continuing our themes with this episode. We've been recently. How many episodes have we done themes for now?
A few.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's a very specific answer. Thank you. So we've changed streams a little bit recently, and now we're doing each episode about a theme rather than a particular movie or a choice of movies. And so in the past we've done, for example, what themes have we done?
We've done all sorts.
All sorts, yeah. You're a lot of help today.
I'm not making this easy for you. Well, let's talk about. Let's just talk vaguely what the last theme was about because it ties into this theme a little bit.
We did one on summer and we did one on something else. Right? And then the last one, which was your choice, we did.
Yes.
You want to talk about your?
Well, we did kind of films that you disliked upon first watch, but there was a germ of an idea that it was you at fault, not the film. So you didn't have the eyes to see it, so you returned to the film to discover, actually, yes, I was wrong. The film was right.
Right.
Whereas this time it's your theme, and it's kind of the opposite, right?
Which is not the opposite. It's very similar. I think I had the similar idea, and it just happened to be that you had that idea and I had my idea at the same time. And so the problem was that when we were choosing movies for these two themes, there was a lot of overlap. Or there was I didn't know which theme it was. So anyway, my theme is movies that you hate that everyone else seems to love.
Yeah, which I think is slightly different because I think the previous episode was more, the thing was, for instance, I spoke Killing of a Chinese Bookie, you spoke Big Lebowski, and in the case of both, you had a feeling that it was you who weren't getting it.
But at the same time, it was the fact that everyone else loved it, but you hated it.
Yes.
So it was the same thing, but you didn't know if you liked it until you saw it again, right?
But I suppose it wasn't so much that it was. The main point being you were at fault, right? Whereas this time round, we feel no guilt whatsoever.
But the problem is with both of these themes that it requires a second watching of the movie that you disliked the first time, and you either liked it again as we did last time, or you continue to not like it.
Right.
So
this one was more problematic to do because I had lots of ideas, but I don't want to watch that again.
That's the problem, right? So it's like So we've actually chosen movies that you don't like to watch, right? So
and the only other thing I wanted to clarify slightly was I think in your case it's more of and we'll get to what our choices are in a minute, but you specifically hate, right?
Yeah.
Whereas my choice is not so much hate as just actively dislike.
And I think you didn't do the real the homework or you didn't follow the assignments.
Shall we stop now? Right. You're going to send me home and do 100 lines.
It was supposed to be a movie that you hate.
Well, I certainly don't like it very much, the popularity baffles me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, the two movies that we chose. My choice was.
Well, let's go with yours.
Well, let's just set it up what movies they are so people know what they're listening to. Yes.
No.
It's my theme, and we'll do it my way.
Oh shit!
Okay,
you're right there. Okay.
My choice was the recent movie, 2017 movie, Call Me by Your Name.
Right.
And your choice was 1983's Scarface.
Yeah.
Scarface. Okay, both of these
highly
critically acclaimed movies. wildly loved by people.
Yes, well, kind of in my case, but we'll get to that later.
And mine was like nominated for best, several Oscars, one adapted screenplay or something like that.
Is that what it won?
I think it won.
Okay,
yeah, something like that, and it was, made a star of the two guys, the two stars and stuff, and but for the life of me, I cannot figure out why. So that's another reason why I chose the movie. I really did not want to watch this movie again.
Okay, I just realised because it all ran together a bit there. Let's just to clarify, we are talking Call Me By Your Name.
Call Me By Your Name, 2017.
2000. Well, it came out very beginning, so I have it as a 2016.
Okay,
yeah.
But it was considered in the 2017 Oscars.
Yes, and Italian-French co-production,
right.
I believe.
Yeah.
But in English. It's English language.
English and Italian and French are all spoken in the movie.
Yes, but it's not the stuff that isn't in English isn't subtitles.
No.
It is
subtitled.
predominantly English, and if you don't understand the Italian and the French, that's fine, kind of thing.
Well, yeah. But it's like, I mean, there's big parts that are Italian, big parts that are French as well.
Really?
So, yeah, there's several scenes. Yeah.
I wouldn't say big. I mean, not. I don't want to get into an argument straight out of the gate, but I don't remember them being much non-English dialogue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I watched.
Apart from occasionally someone would just say like
"ciao"
or something.
When I saw this on the second viewing, I was like, I've forgotten how much Italian and French there was. I was like,
really?
there's a lot more than I remembered.
Okay.
So maybe you just didn't. Maybe you need to do another watching. Yeah.
Nope.
So, so anyways,
So you originally saw this when it first came out?
when it first came out, because
you didn't see it in a theater though?
No, I rented it, or yeah, sure. And I usually do it on my Oscar watch. Usually around the beginning of each calendar year, around January, February, I usually watch all of the Oscar-nominated movies. And this one was the odds-on favorite at and that particular year, and it was people were raving
for best film
and for like a lot like best actor, like a lot of people were just raving about this movie. And so I'd been.
What did win best film? Do you recall?
I believe that was Moonlight that year.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not sure
right.
if I'm getting my Oscar years mixed up, but I believe it was that year. Was that the same year as La La Land, or if it was the year after? I can't remember.
I have a feeling it might be the year after. I think it was La La Land, Moonlight the one year, and then this was up against something. I don't really follow these things, but it feels as if it would have been later.
Right.
So I can't remember what won last time.
Well, anyway, we're just doing our great research again, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It was...
Didn't even watch the film.
It won in the 2018 Oscars, actually.
Okay.
So it was considered 2017, so it won in the 18. And so that would have been...
but it was certainly filmed in 2016, because it came out like January 2017.
Right,
I think, so.
And then it was nominated for Timothée Chalamet as the lead actor, and then it also for Best Picture, and also for the original song "Mystery of Love," or a songwriter.
But I'm just, did you have there? I mean, no sweat if you don't. What actually won?
Well, again, I can look it up. If you fill the space while I look it up.
Ooh, yeah. Do yourself a favor and get some wood in your eyeballs. I subscribe to Ice Cream Magazine.
Maybe it was The Shape of Water then.
There we go. That sounds about right.
Yeah. The Shape of Water.
Which I haven't seen. You have, right?
Yes, I did see it. I saw it twice, actually. Yes, it was, The Shape of Water won. Against The Shape of Water, which I think was a better movie anyway. But anyway, well, obviously, because I chose this movie I hate.
Right.
So, anyway, this movie was widely loved and like passionately loved by many people. And anyway, so I saw it, and I was really interested to see it. As I had heard, it was really quite good, and it's based on the novel by
Andrea Siman, I think.
Yes, sure.
Have you read that?
No, I have not.
Okay. Adapted screenplay by James Ivory of course, Merchant Ivory fame, right? Remains of the Day, Howard's End, all that. A very, kind of films growing up in that era, they seemed like worthy films,
Yes,
right?
The real dramatic,
the backbone of
backbone
the British film industry kind of
yeah,
stuff
right.
that you didn't actually want to watch.
Right.
And now that I'm a bit older, some of them are of slightly more interest to me, but I think I skipped most of these things growing up because they didn't seem like, I don't think I've ever seen Howard's End, for example, whereas people think that's a masterpiece, which it may be, I don't know, but have you ever seen Howard's End, for example?
Those all came out when I was just a little bit too young for those kinds of movies, where I just wasn't interested in watching them, and I think my mom watched them and was like, "Oh, this is wonderful."
There's
but
no car chases.
I was not that interested.
There's probably no tits. So you know.
Although I'm interested to see The Remains of the Day, based on because it's the Japanese author, right? Which or the Japanese British author, right?
Yes,
so, which I didn't realize.
Actually, oddly enough, me too. Since I read the book, actually,
right,
and I rather enjoyed the book, so I'm kind of curious to see.
Yeah, it's one of those movies I should go back and watch again. One of these days. But anyway, back to Call Me by Your Name. So basically, this is a love story. It's a romance movie. About two men that fall in love in 1983, correct me if I'm right?
Set in the early 80s.
Set in the early 80s.
In somewhere in northern Italy.
Yes, specifically, quote unquote. And it's a professor, like an archaeology professor, maybe, or I don't even know what he teaches. Some sort of archaeology or some sort of culture or some sort of art or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
I don't know, the classics.
Played
by Michael Stuhlbarg.
Who also was in Shape of Water.
Right, and it seems he was in everything that was nominated.
Yes, that year. He was in lots of stuff. He was three movies. I think he was in some else that year.
A very good actor.
Yeah, very good, and he did a very good job in the movie.
Yes.
And all the acting was fine in the movie. Anyway, he's a professor living in northern Italy with his wife, who's French.
Yes.
And his son, who's like
Amira Kassar.
Yeah, and his son Timothée Chalamet,
Timothée
Chalamet, and who's like trilingual and speaks pretty much everything. And they're living in this kind of like cottage or like
it's like an idyllic
villa,
with an orchard.
Like with orchards and.
To be honest, it's
a
lake. Fucking lovely looking place.
It's a very nice place. It looks like, but of course, it's also really
playing ping pong in the adjoining room.
Really, and then they each year they hire. They're trying to break in through the wall apparently. Each year they hire I suppose I don't know if it's always American, but in this case they happen to be hiring an American
teaching assistant.
Like a research assistant that's helped. Yes. And that the professor dad has made some sort of discovery of this like. These art or artifacts or something that has been found somewhere, and so he's come to help them like with the cataloging and all that kind of things.
Yes.
And so anyway, so he shows up, and this is of course played by Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer of the Social Network. When there was two of them,
right?
There's only one of him this time.
What?
There was two of him in the Social Network.
Yes, I see.
So there's only one
twins,
this time.
Right. I thought you meant there were two social networks. I was like, was there another network like movie?
No.
No. Anyway, so he shows up, and of course he's a very good-looking guy, right? He's we might mention a bit more about this later as well. But his age isn't specified. But from what I was reading around, I think his character is supposed to be like 23, 24.
Right, but so just a few years older than, I'm guessing Timothée's character is like
17.
Right.
17,
But
he
looks closer to 30 than 20.
He's definitely in 30s.
Right.
Which adds a different element, which I think...
It makes it... it's not too bad, I have to confess, but it certainly does... I think... I have not read the book, but it certainly gives it a slightly... not
uncomfortable feel. Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe not or not problematic, but it's just he doesn't look 23. Right?
No, he doesn't.
So I suppose
Timothée does look 17.
Yes,
though.
In fact, he looks even younger
than 17. Yeah.
So I think, though, I mean, obviously, not to get ahead of ourselves too much, but I suppose it's lucky that the trajectory of the story goes in so much that Armie Hammer's characters chased more by Timothée rather than the other way around.
Right.
Because that could seem somewhat predatory.
But, I mean, on a second watch, it does, Armie Hammer's character does make several moves, and even though Timothée kind of chases him, Armie's character does, what's his character's name? I can't remember the
Doesn't
army.
matter. Just call him Army.
Army, good old Army. He
The Hammer.
The Hammer. He plays Oliver. Oliver, that's right. His name is Oliver. And so Oliver does like a lot of like sort of like long touching, and so he's very flirtatious with Timothée. Right. So anyway, so basically there's no story. Basically, the two of them meet. Oliver is very handsome and charismatic, and all the women are in love with him. And
very. Arrogant in that American way, isn't he?
Yeah. So, but he's also very smart and learned. And Timothée kind of has this sort of like they have this sort of antagonistic relationship at first, where he doesn't really like him. He thinks he's arrogant, and he doesn't really like him. But of course, it's just sort of like a projection of his. Maybe he's uncomfortable with his obviously having feelings for Oliver, and he's sort of like trying to push him away.
Yes, because at the same time he
also has a girlfriend, right?
Yes, played by Esther Garel, the French actress, and so he clearly isn't out of the closet by any means,
and neither is Oliver, who's also flirting around with women.
Yes,
and stuff,
but Oliver at least is comfortable in his own sexual. I think Oliver knows he's gay, right? I think Timothée's character is a bit more.
Well, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I get the impression that they're both bisexual. I mean, we could be like blasted here by the LGBTQ community here, but as far as I know,
that's right. They're easy to beat up.
I get the impression that he's like bisexual, because at the very end it tells him that he's getting married, and and that is his father would never accept.
Right.
Kind of
To me that the way I read that,
or that he's just in the closet, he's just a beard.
Yeah, it's just a beard, and especially he has that other girlfriend while he's there.
Right.
And I mean, of course, it doesn't really matter either way, and you can read it either way.
Yeah.
But I read it closer to that.
Right.
Especially because it ties in as well. The way the film, basically it's a summer romance, right? Mm-hmm. And they both fall for each other extremely strongly. But the Hammer has to go away, right? He doesn't live there. It's not his family. So they have a final kind of couple of days vacation together in another part of Italy before he leaves, and they kind of culminate their love and everything, and
then he leaves, and that's it.
Yes, but what I was going to say is that the thing it ties into the beard thing is, of course, one of the final scenes is Timothée has a sit down with his father, Michael Stuhlbarg, who more or less kind of explains to him, not only, look, I know you're gay, and because that hasn't even, he's never come out as gay. Not only do I know that you're gay, and not only do I not disapprove of your relationship, in fact, I think it was good. He also kind of intimates, at first it's a little vague, but then it comes out pretty strongly, that he's also gay. Right? That Michael Stuhlbarg's character is also gay, or like you said, possibly bisexual.
Right.
But I got the feeling more that he was totally homosexual and got married out of kind of convenience, and that him and his mother, Timothée's mother, I think they do love each other, love each other as companions, but it's a platonic thing.
Sure.
Right? Although then, when Timothée Chalamet asks his father, does Mum know? I'm assuming he's asking him, does she know that you're gay?
Or does she know that I'm gay, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm not quite sure.
And it's very vague. It's left that vague.
And I suspect it's supposed to
be.
Although, and either way, it's funny. Either way, you think, no, she knows. Like, to my mind, there's no question that mother, of what I saw.
But his answer was, I don't think so.
So it's... But I think she does either way, right?
Right, yeah. Anyway, so I mean, and then basically that's it. And then there's like one final epilogue where that's a time jump to like that Christmas, and then it's like now the winter, and he's going on about their lives, and then Oliver calls from America, and now he's tells them that he's getting married, and that he's engaged, and he's getting married in the spring, and then they say goodbye, and then it finishes with Timothée, or whatever his character is, what his character is, Elio, just basically crying to the camera for 4.5 minutes. And
it's a final long shot, which I thought was actually good, for about 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah.
And then I thought,
now it's just
they should fade out at some point. But still, a nice bit of acting
there. For him,
yeah,
and got him his nomination, right? So anyway, that's it. That's basically the whole movie, and. So here's why I hate this movie.
So you do hate this movie?
I do hate this movie.
On second
on second,
watch.
yes.
Right.
So, and I continue to hate this movie.
Okay, take it away. Ron, let the venom...
Well, okay, so I was already established I hate this movie. I'll tell you why in a minute. What did you think of this movie before I go into it?
I quite like this movie.
Why did you like it?
Well, I think... Okay.
So actually, this is one reason why I wanted to choose it. Not because I particularly wanted to watch it again. I really didn't want to watch this movie again.
Yeah, because it wasn't that long ago you watched it.
Yeah. But you hadn't seen it, and I did want to know what you saw. And I did want to have, if you did like it, as you do, I really wanted to have someone explain to me why it's actually a good movie.
Well, I don't think there's any chance of me talking you around to it. Let's put it. But let's set this up. Let's put it in context. For a start, were it not for you to have chosen this for the show, I probably never would have watched this film. Just because I tend to not watch love stories in general. It's just not something I watch.
I don't generally either, unless I have a reason to.
Yeah, you were coming from the Oscar nom. And I don't tend to watch Oscar nom things either. I mean, it's not a point that I look for. Let's put it that way. Been burnt too many times before. So, so I'm not sure if I have the right frame of reference in terms of, I mean, there may be legions of people out on the internet, for example, who dislike this movie because, actually, it's just like this other movie, or it's ripping off this film, or there could be that aspect which I'm totally oblivious to. I don't really know. But just going on the film that I watched, I really rather enjoy. It was a little bit too long. I thought it was pushing it at 132 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 12 minutes. I believe, so.
But a simple story. Nicely told. I liked the setting, obviously, and nicely shot and all that. The characters and their world was just the right side of a kind of idealized intellectual. I mean, there were a few bits. There's like one bit where the father and the son are sitting on the sofa, and she comes over and reads a fairy tale in German and translates, and they seem to really. And I'm thinking, this is testing my patience a little bit. I don't actually believe people like this exist in the world. But apart from a few bits here and there, in general, I thought these characters could have annoyed the fuck out of me, but they didn't. So I thought that's probably a good thing. And I was slightly fascinated, like when they're taking the relics of the statue that they found out of the lake or the sea or whatever. There's something about that I kind of, yes, that would be nice if, it would be nice to have, so there's a certain amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? They call it aspirational. There's that kind of thing is going on. It's very well acted. Both leads are very good, and importantly, it's actually quite convincing. Like I mean, obviously Timothée Chalamet is a very talented young man. Armie Hammer's I haven't seen him in too much, but he maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's because of his kind of ridiculously good looks in a way. Sometimes you're not quite sure if he's coasting or if he's actually good or not. But he is good in this, I think. And more than that, the two of them. At first, I didn't think it would work, but they actually seem like I can see them as a couple. It's done quite convincingly. It wasn't boring. I found it quite wistful, and I mean, like I said, I don't watch these kind of films often, but I watched this one morning with my breakfast, and maybe that helped that it was kind of like, not a backdrop, because I was actually watching it, but I was there with my coffee and my fruit, and I was watching other people drinking coffee and eat fruit.
Yeah, okay.
And I just felt it's somewhat immersive. It was a nice place to spend 2 hours.
Okay.
And and I thought it was well done, and kind of touching. I didn't cry or anything. I know some people were in floods of tears, but no, it was just quite a nice little story, and kind of refreshing to see something like that where, and I suspect this is where might be problematic for you. I know you have a problem with a lack of conflict in this movie, but for me, I found that quite refreshing in so much as it was just it was a rare glimpse into someone coming of age in a queer story of coming of age that wasn't them against the world. There was and those stories exist, but I'm sure these stories also exist, kind of more cozy middle class kind of and that's fine. It is what it is. And I thought it was pretty good, and now I've talked for quite a long time, so I'll be quiet.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I actually agree with a lot of what you said.
Okay.
I agree. I agree it was immersive. I agree it was well acted and well shot, well directed.
Before you get into your thing, though, fully, just to complete what I was going to say. I was just going to say though, but it doesn't strike me in any way, shape, or form as best film material. But then again, to be honest, most of the stuff that gets into the final list of the Oscars doesn't anyway. But even within those perimeters, for instance, we mentioned Moonlight, which is a very different coming of age queer story, which I thought was deserving of its award. I thought Moonlight was very, 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 very good. Difficult to compare because it's apples and oranges a bit, but that was one that I could understand why it was nominated, and I could understand why it won, and I didn't have a problem. But it's not all that, but I wasn't looking for all that. If you see what I mean.
Okay. Yeah. So again, as I was saying, I do agree with a lot of what you said. I do. I mean, it certainly wasn't. It wasn't. Maybe hate is a real strong word for this, but I do strongly dislike the movie. And again, as you touched on, and I think one of the main one issue that I have is I've already told you my issues with these movies, so you already knew it going in, right?
Yeah.
And did you agree? Like
the lack of conflict
that I had a problem. Can you see my point of view?
Well, seeing as the viewers been left, you explain it.
The thing that I didn't like. I mean, I'm fine with like the coming of age story and the romance and all that stuff. I'm fine with all that stuff. It was well acted, well shot, and stuff like that. But I just, again, as you said, it was fine to have the cozy story, the different kind of story where there's no conflict. The person against the world, but I don't know that there is a story there. I don't think that it is a story. It's just a simple this happened, right? And I don't think it's just. There wasn't a story worth telling here. I think it was just I mean, the whole essence of drama is conflict, right? Is some sort of difficulty or obstacle or problem, and there was absolutely no obstacles in this movie whatsoever. There's no problems at all.
See, right? I would take issue with that. I think there were, but it was very, very subtle. But there was conflict.
Like, for example?
Well, I mean, from the get-go, clearly...
With the exception of them, like, I don't like you, now I like you, now I don't like you, now I like you again, right? I mean, but it's sort of...
Well, it's not fair to say the exception of the one thing in the whole film, it fits my...
I mean, if you're saying that as the conflict, I don't really buy that as a conflict.
Well, no, there's more than that. There's that... Of course, from the get-go, but there's also the stuff, I think, for instance, whether they've used the women in their life, there's that. But I would agree with you, I mean, to take that theme, for example, you're quite right that it is very quickly resolved. Yeah. Basically, he has a very, very nice girlfriend, and then she just says, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just
I
okay.
forgive you.
Yeah, even that, like she's
Yes.
like, yeah, I forgive you.
So
That's
I
fine.
see what you're saying, but
You know?
but I get the feeling, the way I read it is there's a lot unsaid in this film. So for instance, even though she comes to him and she says, "I forgive you," there was that instance when she first rode up on her bicycle and she asks, "Am I your girl?" and then she like rides away. And I feel as if a lot of the drama has been consciously edited out, and I think we're invited to kind of read that as backstory almost. So I'm sure she went through this horrible. She rode off and she cried and she hated him, and then she came to understand. And then there's a nice subtle bit, I think, where when the other girl turns up on her bicycle as Hammer's riding away in the bus, and she didn't know he was leaving, and the mother invites her to supper, come over, and she says, "Bring the other girl," right? And we never see that scene, but I assume.
But why should you assume? I mean, that's the point of the film, is to show these.
Well, not
these
necessarily.
Things. I don't know. I think it's part of the story.
Yeah,
it would have been
but
much
then it would have been
more
even
interesting.
longer.
Well, no, and cutting out some of the longing looks and the wistful like nonsense that didn't. So and the only thing I took issue with what you said, of all the things that you said you liked about the movie, was that it wasn't boring, and it was boring. It was dreadfully boring. It was literally a movie about people being bored. like the first hour of the movie before they even hook up is them sitting around saying like, "Oh, I'm so bored. What should we do? I have nothing to do. What should we do? Hey, what is there to do around here? Nothing. We wait for the summer to be over." Like they're having conversations about being bored,
right.
And that's what they do, is they sit around being bored the whole time, and then they hook up. Probably because they love each other, yes, but also it seems to be almost like something to do, right? Because there's really nothing else to do. So
but,
I was so bored.
Really? See, I wasn't.
And that's why I wanted some conflict, at least a little bit here or there, just to keep me interested, because I was so bored.
Maybe the wistful looks and things go a bit further with me or something.
Maybe, I don't know. But
because the other thing as well, I got the feeling that it's a film looking back, right, through rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's kind of difficult to do as well, because I think you think back to your childhood or the perfect summer or whatever. I think what you forget is the boring bits, right?
Yeah,
you remember the glorious bits.
Yeah.
And for me, I think this film got the balance right. I think it kind of, you still had the space and but it was it had that kind of melancholy edge. So what can I say? It worked for me. Okay. It worked for me. Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't watch it again, but if I did have to watch it again, it would be no great hardship. Although I can see watching it twice in a very short space of time might,
it was a little bit
especially if you didn't like it the
first
time.
Quite,
I salute you, Ron, for actually watching it. You've gone the distance.
Well, I'm glad that you actually had a different opinion, that it wasn't. I mean, that it's not just an echo chamber for myself. I mean, that there. I mean, I was watching this. It's like nothing is happening. And there's no conflict, there's no story, there's nothing interesting happening. They fall in love, they have, that's it, and then he leaves, that's it. And I was like, I can't understand why this is a story that was necessary to tell. And I didn't think it. And then people were so rabidly in love with this movie, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't understand why. Right? And
I do actually, even though I'm not on board with that level of devotion for it, I kind of do get it, though. I think it
may have something
fills
to do
the
with
gap.
I think it may have something to do with like touching sort of seeing yourself in the characters, right?
Yes, I think so.
If you have like a similar experience, or you have if it's sort of like you have a connection to these characters in this kind of situation.
Yes.
Maybe in that case, then it speaks to you in a way that maybe it didn't speak to me, right?
And maybe there's not too many films that tell this story from the queer perspective as well, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there are other, those kinds of movies.
But not specifically
But usually those types of movies have some kind of conflict. Someone objects to it happening, or they object to themselves having, he's coming of age, he's realizing he's gay, and he doesn't want to be gay, or he has some sort of like inner turmoil, or whatever, or before he kind of overcomes it, or other people give him, shit for being that kind of thing. These are, kind of like the tropes of
that's
gay,
what I'm saying.
So,
This was
or dad does it, or I mean, even the fact that he was so much older, right? And so, I mean, it could have been like not even the gay thing, but the age thing,
Right.
or the fact that he was working for the father, or there's so many things that they could have been at least a little bit of, even if it was just a little bit like, I don't know, like
Right.
a little bit a raised eyebrow or just some sort of,
I think
but it was all of it was like, oh, that's great. Oh, I'm so happy
I think
found
you
each other,
have
but
tapped
that's it.
into it, though. I think that is part of the appeal in a way.
There is no conflict.
devoid of those tropes because you come preconditioned to expect them, right?
But it's not even necessarily expected. I needed something to make it interesting for me, as because I need those tropes, because otherwise it's just I love you, okay, see you, bye, and that's it, right? And I just needed more than that. I needed to see some sort of turmoil.
Do you think
whether it's because of the age, because of the gay thing, because of I dumped my girlfriend for you, because of something, because you dumped me for him, something that just said that someone was upset with someone, but there was nothing. Everyone was so happy.
I'm wondering, do you think this is specifically something you need in all storytelling, or do you think it's something to do with the medium?
All storytellings require conflict. I mean, that's the essence of drama. There's no drama without conflict.
For example, this started life as a novel, right?
Yeah.
And there are many kind of classic novels of this kind of ilk, right, which are, they're all about mood and they're all about setting, and it's just, and when you read something like that, sometimes it kind of takes you to another world. And I think this kind of story may work better in the form of literature.
Okay, it's possible.
Do you think you have the same problem? You'd need some kind of conflict.
I think definitely as a book you still need a conflict. I mean, that's what story is. I mean, there's no story if there's no conflict. Story is conflict. It's the same thing, right? So I mean,
it's funny that is one of those truisms that you hear, and I think it probably holds water most of the time. But well, like I said, in this film, I'm not going to say this film disproves that theory, because I'm slightly at odds with you. I think there is conflict in the film, but it's just
not strong conflict, or there's
it's
edited or nuanced.
Yes,
conflict.
It's internalized somehow. I think
I can buy that, I guess.
Right.
But I even on the second viewing, I still didn't really see it. I mean, I was I thought there were moments where it could have been there, but I still didn't get that it was there. I still didn't think that. I still thought it took the easy way out way too many. It just felt like it was the easy way out all the time.
Right.
That's what I felt like.
Interesting. We've overlooked, of course, the biggest problem with this film, Ron,
which is
it's full of puffs.
Right. And I know that there's this is going to show how ignorant I am, I guess, whatever. But
that's okay. I just said it's full of puffs. So.
Yeah, but I also didn't understand the significance of the title and which comes from the one particular romantic scene that they have together, where he says, "Call me by your name, I'll call you by yours."
Right.
And I didn't really understand, because that's not something I would have ever thought of doing. So what was I missing about that?
Right.
What does that even mean?
To be honest with you,
where does that come from?
That's something I that left me cold as well. Actually,
okay.
I'm wondering if it's something that.
But
makes
it was
more
important
sense
enough to call the whole book and the movie over.
I'm wondering if it makes more sense in the book.
Maybe,
because what I got from it from the film, and let's see if you have a different interpretation. But for me, it was just so. There's this whole thing about how they're not mirroring, but they're both kind of. They yearn for the other, and they feel in the other's shadow to a certain extent, and they think the other person is better than them, and the other. There's a big thing about how they're lucky because
they have each other.
Yeah, it's not just about the coming out thing. It's like you're really lucky to have found someone who To be honest, though, I can imagine that kind of. In a way, I think the relationship is lucky that it only ran a short course, because you can imagine a relationship like that getting really dramatic.
Yeah.
Right?
I wanted that drama. That's where I wanted it.
Very needy people, people kind of, I don't know, prostrating themselves to make the other one, to show how much anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But, so I got the feeling the only thing is that somehow I want to be you, or to use your name, or
Right.
something, or live in your skin, or live up to you, or something like that. But yes, they do belabor it a little bit when they're running around the fields, calling each other by each other's name.
Yeah.
That scene did strike me as just a bit silly.
Yeah.
But again, maybe it makes more sense in the book. But of course, that doesn't let the filmmakers off the hook, because you either do it in the film properly or you cut it out. Right. So I would agree with you on that point. That's somewhat fumbled, I think.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about the thing that kind of rubbed me wrong way about this movie is, and I know a lot of people, liked the nuance and the storylines and the acting and stuff, but I think especially, using that last image as an example, where you talk about the 4.5 minutes of him crying to the camera, and then you said you're okay for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole thing was just smacked of pretension, right? I found it so like, look how deep of people we are, and almost the fact that there was no obvious conflict, and then ending it with just like almost 5 minutes of just showing his face crying. I just thought it was almost like the movie was talking down to me. It was like, it was patronizing me, like, oh, well, you don't understand this movie, so you're not good enough. And it felt to me like it was almost like you're not allowed to say you don't like this movie, right? I felt like that. I just felt like I just found it really pretentious, but almost like, it's like, how dare you say that? I was like, it dares you to call it pretentious.
Right, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Right. I think that's probably more. I didn't get that from the film, but I can certainly see how some of the fandom around it would inspire that thought. But I genuinely thought the film itself was just quite heartfelt and honest.
Right.
Like I said, if you're talking pretentious, then that family, and I'm very sensitive to stuff like that, they could have driven me up the fucking wall, right?
Yeah,
but to be fair, even though you don't like this film, obviously, it doesn't seem like you actually have that problem, though. You don't have a problem with that family and the characters.
That was the least of the worries. But definitely, I had the same thing. I was like, who the fuck reads German fairy tales to their kid? I was like, it actually made me, as a parent myself, I'm more like, oh, I wish my kids would let me read them a story. I was more like that, kind of thing, speaking from the parents' point of view. But yeah, I thought it was well acted. I thought everyone was really good. I thought, it was beautifully shot. It was all that stuff, But but again, the people were a little bit pretentious, That even that whole thing when the first scene with the hammer, where he comes in and he almost like he makes the statement about the origin of one word, and he goes, well, actually, blah blah blah. He goes, and then it turns out it was a test the whole time. Yes. Like, it was like, that's so pretentious. Like, really? You can't tell me that's not pretentious, right?
Well, no, but I think it makes. Again, it may be pretentious, but I think to a certain extent these people are pretentious. So I just found it kind of honest.
Yeah.
And so obviously we have. Does me liking it surprise you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I have to admit, your vehemence towards it.
I certainly didn't expect you to be as vehemently opposed to it as I am, because
in fact, your opposition to it surprises me a little bit.
Okay.
Just because I know you, and you're fairly mild-mannered, and I've often something, if you don't like something, it's just it's just. Not for me, and you've been very tolerant over the years with some of my choices. So I'm actually surprised of all things for this to get under your hood.
Yeah. I don't know even sure what it is. It's just I just wanted something else to happen. I wanted something to happen, right? And I think it's more the fact that it also could have fit in your theme from last week, which is that people love this, is that I almost felt like it was my fault for not liking the movie, right?
Okay.
And that,
but I'm pretty sure you.
But I was hoping maybe if I watch it again, maybe I will get it. Maybe I'll see it with different eyes. Maybe it does belong in last week's theme. But but I don't think it does.
Anyway, here's hoping the proposed sequel comes out in time for next year's Valentine's.
Yes, and it is having a sequel. And don't you think that cheapens it as well? Why would it have a sequel? Anything sequelizing anything would cheapen.
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea. I don't know is the book the first in the series.
I have no idea. I don't know.
It could be that.
Yeah, I was very shocked to hear that there was a sequel.
Yeah,
it was very It's not the kind of movie that you would sequelize.
Call Me Harder. Directed, we forgot to mention, directed by Luca Guadagnino, Italian director, who after this went on to make the Suspiria remake.
Right.
Which I haven't actually got around to seeing it.
Have
you
seen
it?
No, I haven't yet either.
The only other Guadagnino movie I've seen is the 2003 or something movie. What is that? Hang on. Can't read my own writing. 2003, I think. Movie Melissa P. I don't know if you ever saw this.
No.
Starring Maria Valverde, the Spanish actress. Melissa P. is another kind of coming of age story about sexuality,
right?
And it's not particularly good,
mm-hmm.
but it does star the super cute Maria Valverde in states of undress throughout.
Okay.
So it's a good pervy watch. Along with, if you're a Maria Valverde fan, you should also watch Madrid 1987,
mm-hmm.
which is another very pretentious, not
mm-hmm.
very good
right.
drama. But, plenty of stuff for the wank bank for
right.
you Maria Valverde fans. Are you familiar with Maria Valverde?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. I recommend that you do get familiar with Maria
sure.
Valverde.
So let's move on to your choice. Okay. The 1983 classic Scarface.
You're just trying to wind me up now, aren't you? Yes, Scarface. So again, literary source. Armitage Trail's 1929 novel, Scarface, which I have read actually and remember almost nothing about. So. Right. I'm not sure what. I think it's probably Armitage Trail's most famous novel.
Also based on a 1932 movie.
Well, the both movies. The book came out in 29, and then the 31 movie Scarface by Howard Hawks, starring Paul Mooney.
Right.
But that was very different from the book.
Right.
And it was basically a thinly veiled Al Capone story. Have you seen the 31?
I haven't, no.
That's really good. That's very, very good.
It says it's 32. But.
Again, early release 32 or 31, I think. That's an excellent film. That still holds up really well, I think. And Paul Mooney's great in it. I have no problem with that. But then they decided to remake it, 50 years later. It's directed by Brian De Palma from an Oliver Stone script.
Your buddy Oliver Stone.
Yeah, originally to be directed by Sidney.
I had
Sidney
forgotten
Lumet.
Oliver Stone wrote this movie too, and I was like, oh, and even another element of
yes,
why you like
another
the
fly in the ointment. Sidney Lumet was going to direct it, but at some point dropped out. Yes, so just before we get into it, opinion. Well, first about you've seen this before, right?
I had once before,
okay,
long time ago.
Right. Okay. So basically the story is it's the gangster American dream gone sour story, relocated to early 80s Miami, Florida, and as did happen in real life, of course, Fidel Castro released all of these prisoners and sent them on. All these Cuban boat people ended up taken in by the US, right? And among them were a lot of people from his jails, criminals, anti-communists, agitators, stuff like that, including one Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino in... Well, yeah, we'll get to Al Pacino. And his friend Stephen Bauer, who I think is actually very good in this film. I think he's very, very funny. And basically, they arrive...
Are you generally, just sorry off the top of it, are you generally an Al Pacino fan? Or is it, what do you generally think of Al Pacino?
I don't have a problem with Al Pacino.
Okay.
And I've seen him really good in some things, and then a bit, Al Pacino in others. In the same way as, sometimes, exactly how big a slice of Robert De Niro would you like, sir? It's a bit like that, right? But I suppose they've earned the right to phone it in every now and again.
Right.
So, yeah, and they end up, and they're like washing dishes and stuff, and they're living in what's called Freedom Town, which are these kind of refugee camps underneath the highway. And Al Pacino gets his chance because a former Castro associate is been sent over, and he assassinates him, and then he gets in with some gangsters, and then the gangsters, want him to do this deal with some dodgy Colombian coke dealers, and they try and rip him off, but he manages to keep the drugs and the money, and so then he demands to meet the higher up. He meets Robert Loggia as the kind of the head gangster boss, and then basically it's the rise of Tony Montana rising to the top, and taking cocaine drug lord, taking away Robert Loggia's girlfriend Michelle Pfeiffer, and then just rising up the ranks until of course
he's the Lord, and
then it all comes tumbling down as So that's the basic. That's the basic outline. Right. That's the way it goes. Yes. But it takes 170 minutes.
2 hours and 50 minutes.
Fucking hell.
I was going to say, I was like, I have more to say about this on our next episode, and I'll save it for the next episode. But,
okay.
But I do think it was interesting that both of us the theme was to choose movies that we hate. But we both chose exceptionally long movies. That was like it's not enough just to choose like a 90-minute. Okay, I gotta watch this again. We both chose these epic what do you call it? Just long movies, right? What's the word I'm looking for?
Getting closer to watching this again. I was like, oh fuck, really? I was not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was like, why would he? If he hates this movie, why would he choose to watch a 2 hour and 50-minute long movie?
This, like you said, it was so difficult to choose something,
right?
And nothing I could think of I could bear watching again.
Right.
And certainly after this viewing, I'm never watching this again, because I have actually seen this film now either 4 or 5 times.
Really? Okay.
Which is a lot of times.
Right.
Plus double the
it's almost like an entire
film.
Day of your life.
Yes. in this fucking... So, before we get to my problems with it then, I'm kind of curious, because I actually have no idea whether you like this film or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
What's that smirk?
no.
I love it.
Well, no,
I love violence.
I thought it was well shot, and I thought the
It was
conflict
fun.
was very nuanced.
Actually, well shot. We should mention by John Alonso.
The conflict was very nuanced, and
there's fucking conflict in this film.
Yeah, there you
for
want conflict. There's conflict.
Yeah.
So when I saw this many years ago.
Right.
And I don't know if it really I put more bearing on these types of things than you do, but interestingly, this movie is still the 106th best movie on IMDb list of best movies of all time.
Right, but that list is worthless.
Well, you think that. I put a little bit more credence in that than you do. A little bit more, not a lot, but it's because it's
do
voted
they still
on.
Have fucking Shawshank Redemption
in terms of popularity, anyway. So.
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
it's
it's undeniable
so,
in terms of that,
yeah,
but
popular, yeah, so it's an algorithm based
but
on
Donald
ratings.
Trump's popular.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but anyway, so interestingly that it's still on a lot of people's like best movies of all time list. Right?
Oh yeah,
like,
best gangster film list.
Gangster
Yeah.
When I saw this many years ago, I remember really enjoying it, and I remember having no.
You saw this as a teenager, young
probably,
man?
yeah, teenager, early 20s, probably somewhere around there. And I remember enjoying it quite a lot and having only positive memories of it. So nothing that I didn't remember having any negative connotations toward this movie at all. So I was quite shocked that you chose it, I guess, because I didn't think that it would have been, of all the movies you could have chosen, I didn't think this would have been one that you.
I'm not watching Star Wars again.
Well, yeah. Anyway, but you hate Star Wars?
Not hate, but I'm not watching it again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know the next Halloween movie, or the next
Valentine's
Valentine's Day movie. Yeah, so anyway, so I watched it again, and I started watching it with I was quite enjoying it a lot. Actually, I enjoyed a lot of the movie, and I was like. Smiling and enjoying it quite a lot of it. I enjoyed.
I now have this strange image of you sitting at home with a grin on your face.
I was trying to watch it with my kids were around, and so I was trying to watch it like little bits at a time. So my 5-year-old daughter kept saying, "I want to listen too." And I was like, "No, you can't listen to it." Right, so
I want to listen to
cockroach. And so I was quite shocked. I had no memory whatsoever of how corny it is. It's quite corny.
It is.
I did not.
It is.
I did not remember that it's one word for it. It is quite corny.
No cliches. Is out of bounds.
I was very shocked. I did not remember this at all, which was the one thing that pointed out to me. I did not remember the making money in a montage sequence. Which was like that was the one that kind of stood out for me. Was as more of like I forgot about this completely.
It's almost self-parody at this point, isn't it?
Well, it is. I was like, it was because of course it was a sign of the times. It was very much. For those of you who don't know, people listening don't know what it is. Of course, it's like the Rocky montage where he's getting stronger in a montage, playing with like some inspirational 80s rock, power ballad. Yeah. And they did that for him as he's making money, right? So,
and there has to be people laughing uncontrollably at some point in one of the clips of the montage. Usually on the phone or something.
Yeah, and shaking hands.
We're having so much good time.
It's like shows him gradually get better and better, right? So he's making money in a montage, right? And he's showing his rise to power, which of course a sequence like that would be laughed off the screen nowadays, right?
Yes.
And so it's.
But I'd argue it was corny even back then.
Yeah. Well, okay, it's way possible, but I think it was popular and it was commonplace. I mean, it was not so commonplace in this type of movie though, which is why it was more like a sports movie, like Rocky and those types of movies where it's like you there is some sort of skill that they're getting better at, and they use that. It's like you got the touch, you got the like you're simply the best, like the Karate Kid, like all those types of movies. They use that sequence all around the same time that this movie was made. So I was shocked that they used it in this movie. I just no memory of that. I was like, what is this sequence doing here? So that was the kind of the beginning of where I was kind of like, wait a second, what's going on here, right? So and then after that, definitely Al Pacino definitely. I'm surprised there's any scenery left. Like he was taken, he was just munching down on that scenery. Like he is
say goodnight to the bad guy.
He was having
wow.
He reminded me of. there's an old adage for theater kids, for drama kids. You know, when you go see your family and friends, and they come see your play, right?
Yeah.
You're in high school, they come see your high school play,
Right.
And then afterwards, you come down, you're like, and you
Yeah.
say, what'd you think? And then your family or friend, they say, well, it looked like you guys were having a lot of fun up there,
Yeah,
right? That's the old adage, right? Which is that
Exactly.
it seemed like Al Pacino was having a lot of fun
Yes,
in this movie.
yes.
He was loving it.
True.
And for a lot of the movie, I was enjoying it too. I was
Okay.
on the ride. It was a caricature. It was way over the top,
Right.
but it was fun. It was a fun ride. It definitely took it from the level of realism for me. It certainly wasn't realistic at
Right.
all, but it was still a fun, like, kind of schlocky ride. It was enjoyable.
To his credit,
He just played it up to it.
yes,
right?
to his
right?
credit, I think he's aware of it. I saw an interview with
Mm-hmm.
him, and he specifically mentions playing Tony Montana 2D instead of 3D.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
see.
he actually said that. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, right.
And I'll get to this later. My main problem with this film, I think that feeds into actually almost everything in this film. I can't say it failed on its own merits. I think it's probably exactly the film they wanted.
I think so
to
too.
make.
Yeah. So I think.
But when this film first came out, it was critically trashed. Right? It's critically
Right,
trashed,
yeah.
and I think that was the right call. But what's happened over the years, if people have gone back to it and it's been reevaluated, right? And I suppose the main thing that they've gone with is. Yes, it's cliched. It's shallow. It's very early '80s Miami Vice,
Right,
gaudy,
yeah.
kind of coke-filled, kind of
yeah.
vacuous nonsense, right? But I suppose, in retrospect, what people have said is, well, it's a satire.
I don't know. I don't buy that.
No, I don't buy it either.
I don't buy the satire, but I just think if you're not expecting like realistic portrayal of the rise and fall of a drug lord,
Right.
if you're just looking for a fun ride, I had fun, right? So
okay.
that's what you're looking for. I was like, it depends on what you're going in expecting, right?
Yes.
I was certainly, unlike my choice, Call Me by Your Name, I was never bored in
Really?
this movie. I was never bored.
I was very bored.
Even for 2 hours and 50 minutes, I was never bored.
No,
not even once the whole time. It moved along in a good clip.
The reason I found it boring, I think, is because it's so cliched, and because everything was telegraphed and I knew exactly what was coming next.
Right.
So there was nothing to like pull me along because the acting is it's not awful. It's just really cartoonish.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, oddly enough, the I think the best guy in it is Stephen Bauer because he actually seems quite. There's one really funny scene because he's really
He's
machismo Latin kind of And there's one scene where he tries to chat up some blonde next to a pool and he sticks his tongue out and then she slaps him and he's just walking in and he goes lesbian. I thought that was funny. That was spot on, right? So he was quite convincing, more than anyone else. He is, of course, the only Cuban-born member of the main cast, I think.
But I think I wasn't looking for convincing. I was looking just for like like guns and coke and tits, right? Which is what it did, right?
I understand that, but and I'm the first person in line for such a film, but. I have to admit, I didn't even find it fun as a trashy action. For a start, a trashy action film should be half the fucking length. Right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, you need a bit more for that length of time. Right?
Right.
So there's this whole thing about it's actually a mirror of 80s culture and coke, and I can see how that I buy it slightly more than you do, but. I don't think that's like so. It's like I want a bit more than that.
Right.
And the other thing as well is, I was watching this documentary and Oliver Stone's banging on about all the research he did about narco trafficking and stuff, and maybe he did, and I don't know, maybe it didn't end up on the screen. I don't know if there's like a published screenplay or whatever. But the thing is, there's very little of it. There's like the only thing is, of course, the chainsaw scene, right? That's the only thing which is kind of. Especially at the time, would have been kind of specifically shocking about the kind of level of violence
Right,
that narco traffickers went to,
Right.
chainsaws and stuff like that, right? And so there's that. But other than that, I mean, you could have replaced, you could have replaced them with Italian Americans or almost anyone. It didn't make a difference. So,
Right.
so I understand. So it's neither one nor the other, right?
Right.
It doesn't work for me as a kind of classic tale because it's too cliched.
Right.
But then if they'd have, then at least put some more detail in it about narco traffickers and stuff like that.
Right.
That would be interesting. But that's not in there either, right? So it just, I really, I mean, I can only be honest, right? I can only be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can put it into words, but maybe the reason I've watched it a few times is because I want to kind of get it. I genuinely was bored, like really bored, like just fucking really. And I couldn't tell you what, because like you said, there's always kind of something happening. It's not, it's not just two people in a room talking. There's like action and shit, and there's like shootouts.
There's a gun
but it
under
was
the
just,
table.
oh my god, this is fucking. In the same way as you go and see a Transformers film, and there's always something going on, but that's thuddingly dull as well. Right? It's like fucking. I know they're very different films.
I wouldn't say it's Michael Bay bad, but yeah.
Well, so it's very difficult for me to express exactly, which isn't very good because that's why we're here. But I genuinely find it really difficult to like, and the level of respect for this film, the cult around this film, just boggles my. I mean, just in the world of like hip hop, for example, this thing's huge. Right? The amount of songs that have either sampled or referenced. I mean, Tony Montana's, the guy, right? And I don't really understand. Like, I don't understand why people like him as a character. Like, he's not especially.
That was the one thing. I mean,
he's not especially cunning.
Well, I had a lot of fun watching it,
but
that was the one thing that my main problem, I think, with the movie in general is that he's not likable at all, like as a person, as a character. He's not.
Right.
There's never one time where you're like, you want him to win. You want him to fall the whole time. You want him to fail,
right?
Because he's never like you. He never smiles. He's never happy. He's always angry and bitchy and annoyed by everything and annoying. So I never really liked him in general. He's always rude to everyone around him and stuff. And so you can't really understand. He's not a hero, nor is he an anti-hero.
Yes,
he's just sort of this kind of unlikable guy who gets some stuff happening and then he dies.
So I don't mind him not being likable. It's just, but you have to at a certain point you have to buy into why other people like him. Why the fuck would Michelle Pfeiffer go out with this guy?
Well, I mean, that was because of the money, right? So
but still, I mean, and again, her character as well is just like you don't really care. I mean, she just
I'd
does
forgotten
seem...
how hot Michelle Pfeiffer was.
I'll give her that.
Wow.
But such a vapid kind of character.
Well, I mean, that's the point. She's supposed to be a vapid character, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But then that feeds into the whole thing about the film. Well, that's what it is, but that's not enough.
Right. I did wish that there was more of like a final scene with her. Like she just kind of gets up and leaves the restaurant, and then you never see her again, right? So,
I'd forgotten.
I thought that there was at least something else to resolve that storyline, but she just disappears, and that's the end, right? So
other people in this film as well include Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, F. Murray Abraham, Harris Yulin, Mark Margolese, Pepe Serene, Angel Salazar, De Palma regular Greg Henry, Richard Belzer. Did you notice Richard Belzer on stage in the club? He's like the stand-up comic.
Oh, was he?
That's Richard Belzer,
good, okay.
And apparently, somewhere in a pool, a 13-year-old Brett Ratner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
A future director of the Rush Hour films, I believe.
Yes. And also, Me Too. He was also like I believe
was he accused?
A target of a Me Too thing too as well.
Georgia Moroder score as well. I'm never watching this film again. It's got enough of my time by now. I think I've officially not by. Are you just in general? Are you a Brian De Palma guy? Are you?
I like. Remind me what else he does.
Okay, Harry.
Huh?
Carrie.
Carrie, yeah.
The
original.
Untouchables. Raising Cain. Bonfire of the Vanities. Maybe not his finest.
Right. Dressed to Kill.
Yeah, Dressed to Kill. Body Double. The list goes on. Yeah. Are you?
I don't have any opinion on Brian De Palma one way or the other as far as I remember.
Okay.
And the name is recognizable, but I don't remember not or liking him or not liking him.
Right.
So.
But he is one of those guys that does. One of his, I suppose, his celebrity fans is Quentin Tarantino. Loves him, right? And especially the film he made before this one, Blowout, with John Travolta, which again is one who is. It just eludes me why people love it so much. But I do like some Brian De Palma films, and I think the problem with Brian De Palma movies for me, there was a documentary called De Palma, which is just him talking about his own films. It's surprisingly quite interesting. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to him actually speak, and I just get the feeling that Brian De Palma should be making better films than he does in general, because he makes very kind of glossy and a movie doesn't necessarily have to have depth to be fun, and some of his movies are great fun and they don't have the depth, but he just strikes me as a guy who could probably do a lot. Like, he seems quite an intellectual, he seems like quite smart, but it doesn't come through in any of his films, and it just seems, I don't know, like he's not living up to his potential, says the man who's never directed a feature film in his life. But
Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was fun.
So there we go.
And like you, if I'm not going out of my way to watch Scarface again, but if it was on, I'd watch it. I'd watch it again.
So there we go. We've swapped. I like your film more than you, and you like mine more. Yes. So there we go. Yeah. So next Christmas. Call Me By Your Name Blu-ray for me, and Scarface Blu-ray for you. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Or something else entirely.
Yeah. And you can say, as you give it to me, you can say hello to my little friend.
Oh, see, now, that's one of those, like a movie phrase things that if someone says that's like when you do that.
I knew it.
That's like when you do that fucking "that's what she said" thing. It's just winds. Like, how did that ever become? Like, hello to my little friend. It's like, how different is that? I would rather.
You fuck with me, you fuck with the best.
I would rather the Schwarzenegger.
Cockroach.
The Schwarzenegger, he caught the train, or he's hanging around, or something infinitely better.
The 80s was all about catchphrases and like one-liners and stuff.
But why?
It's
why
fun
do
to say.
people?
Is
it?
Say hello to my little friend, right? Yeah, it's fun.
You're enjoying saying
that.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. Doing like a Tony Montana impression is fun because it's like you feel like your pulse is throbbing.
I wish you could see Ron's face right now.
Your vein is like throbbing. You're like, say hello to my love. Hey, you fuck with me. You fuck with the bitch. You fucking cockroaches, right? Like, it's just like, it's fun to do, right? It's very like it's like it's a game you play.
I would watch a Scarface remake starring you as Johnny Montana.
I'm done.
Okay,
there you
that
go.
would be worth it.
There's your first motion feature film.
I think I need quite a lot of money to make Scarface. But there we go.
Yeah.
Coming to a screen near you, Scarface, starring Ron Scott,
directed by Clive,
the notorious Latino actor. See you next time.
Bye.